How you doing? This is Flux and Stuff, and I'm going to show you today how I make my these light packs, which are save a nice couple grams, and they're quite popular on the forums. And in this particular case, I'm going to show you how to do a 25C Thunder Power 250 milliamp. This is a great battery. It's bigger than the 180 Hyperion, gives you a longer flight time, which I think the Hyperions are basically worthless. It's such a short flight time. So let's go over what we're going to get out of this. So I have a little scale here. And the stock pack weighs, that's right here, 21.8, and my stripped down pack weighs 20.5. So that's a 1.3 gram savings, and obviously if you didn't use quite as much Kapton tape on it, you probably get a little bit less than that. But so I'm going to show you what you do here. The soldering iron hot. I take a blade very gently, just a little bit of the blade, and I just pop the plastic. The plastic is really tough. You have to be super careful about what you're doing here. If you puncture one of these packs, you are so screwed. Gas comes out. You could cause a little bit of a fire. I always keep a clay plant pot nearby, empty pot, just in case I have to dump them into something. And the windows right here are always unlocked, ready to be opened. So we got rid of the piece of plastic. It's quite thick, quite stiff, very difficult. Then we have this black securing tape, and it's also quite a bit. You know, sometimes the scissors is better, less chance of puncturing the battery. Okay, once you've got that, you can peel back. You can see there's a little bit of the Kapton tape underneath there already, which I'm going to be careful to leave in place. And there you go. I've got it off. And between these two pieces, this this black protective casing and this clear case, you're looking at a 1.5 grams, maybe a little bit more. Okay, so now we have a pack, and you can see that they've already used some tape here. Since I'm not modifying this pack like I do with the other packs where I actually solder a lead, I don't know, can you see? I solder a lead to the positive and to the negative. Take off this tape and do that. And then I can have, I have actually two types of connectors. I do this with the Thunder Power 325 65C 2S's, right? Strip them down the same exact way, same exact outer casing as this other Thunder Power 3-cell. And then I actually solder on an extra lead to the positive and to the negative, and I leave the stock connector as is. This gives me a DIN to use in my setup with my Castle Creations Phoenix 25. Yeah, see, and then I can still use the balance port and charge it like a normal thing. And I also drop 2 grams on this, or 1.5 grams on this one as well. I don't have the stock weight written down here. I do have it on a video someplace. But anyways, so this is the goal, is to get stuff like this going. So here we go. I like this battery a lot as it is. I mean, I might want, because of the mounting issues inside the MCPX, I mean, not helicopter, huh? Inside the UMX MiG-15, I may want both of these plugs on the same side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to very carefully remove. You have to be extra careful with everything you do here. You don't want to short anything out. You don't want to tug across a wire. I'm going to cut this. I'm not going to even play with it. And down it comes. All right. All of this you're doing at your own risk. I don't want to hear anything about anything about safety here. This stuff is not, I gotta use my nail, I don't dare put a piece of metal in there. There we go. It's easy enough. Just gotta be super careful about what you're doing. And so basically I'm just reorientating the plugs so they both face the same direction like this. And then later I will solder Deans onto there, and I'll show you how to do that as well. So you can see that this lead that comes up, they like to tuck a little of the Kapton tape there. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Underneath it, so when it folds back, when it folds itself back upon the battery, there's a little bit of tape there to protect it. I don't see why not. So sounds like a sound ID to me. Do it. There's a little bit of lead here, so I'm just carefully keeping the tape. I have plenty of this tape lying around. I could certainly rip off a brand new sheet piece, but since I'm not majorly modifying this one like I do with the 2S's, I'm just gonna reuse it. There you go. See, I've tucked it in, and now it's folding back on itself. It goes down. Gonna make it nice and clean in here, and then I'll re-lengthen these wires and match them up when I solder on the new one. And now that I have my battery, I have my good old roll of Kapton tape. This is 500C, or is it 500 degrees? Electrically neutral, non-conductive tape. So I like to start down here in the corner. Oh, before I go, I usually write on it what it is, so it's underneath the tape. So this is a 250 MAH 3S25C, and it's a Thunder Power. Okay, so now we have, we know what it is. Usually identify them as well, but that's fine. It's a pretty narrow pack. No need to get too crazy with it. Now here's the tricky part. Not tricky, but the part where I'm being careful, because I want to make sure everyone's really happy here. And I usually do a pass, and on the second pass I now this tape is not great at being flexible or being worked, but if you really try hard you can get it to kind of move around a little bit without majorly creasing it or upsetting it. And the reason I'm just putting an extra piece here is because there's going to be quite a bit of tugging at this area, trying to remove and add that from the battery bay, because it's a very tight fit, and just making sure that I have what I need in the way of security. Now I don't know how well that video came out right there, but because I was taping and doing as opposed to watching the output of the video. So there's my 250 3S25C, just like this one, and I folded them both up. And now I'll show you how I clip these and solder these on. But before we do that, let me just weigh it and see what it weighs. So the one I had before weighs 20.7, and this one is 20.5. So I'm sure once I add the Dean connector there, it's going to increase in size. Okay, so when you're gonna change the plugs on a battery like this, you got to be super careful. You never, ever, 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 ever want to cut both wires at the same time. You cut one wire, you work with it, then you cut the other wire and you work with it while insulating the first one that you cut. And that's just how you do it if you don't want to blow up the pack or start a fire or electrocute yourself. These guys are super high discharge. Well, 25C is not super high, but it's high enough. So I usually start by cutting the negative. I would normally try and save some of these connectors, and I do save them, but these are machined or crimped on with a tool, and they're practically impossible to save. So and they're cheap, and I have a bunch lying around, so I'm just going to cut it right up to the tip here, like that. Now I'm pretty safe at this moment. I'm going to strip it. Now you don't want to short, not that the negative is going to give you any problems, but you never want to short this kind of stuff on anything. So you always make sure your bench is clean, clear, nothing around. Take the soldering iron. Now when soldering, you always want to put a little bit of a little solder on the tip real quick, and that will get the heat flowing into the wherever it is you're going. Never breathe this smoke in. Always blow it away from you. Okay, here we go. Now I love to get these with a huge ball of solder on them. It makes the job of putting it all together super easy. Turn down the heat a little bit, it's a little bit much. Okay, now the hotter your iron, I'm not going to say you want it all the way up. Got mine set at like 4 1/4. The less heat you're going to put into the wire, and the less chance that that little heat shrink is going to get shrunk on you before you're ready to slip it up onto the Deans or whatever it is that you're building. So whatever kind of plug you're going to put. Now orientation of this plug is very important. When on the battery, here's I've got a MCPX single cell, but you can see the positive gets the lead, gets the gold tip, and the negative gets the receptacle. It's never been a problem for me. I guess I learned how to do that off of watching other guys, and it's been fine for me. I always kind of thought I'd put the negative in there. Okay, so let's move to the side, and what we're going to do is we're going to silver the ends of this. We're going to silver the ends of this Dean plug real quick. All right. Sorry, I don't have a better camera set up for you. Okay, hopefully this is good enough. Yep. So usually just heat them up a little bit, get a little bit of solder on there, and then and you'll see the solder will just flow right onto the gold tips. And then once you can get it going, you can actually put more solder. And you just silver them up. This will make adding the plugs a lot easier. Okay. And you can see. I could add a little bit more here. And you take your time. Don't rush. This, especially when working with batteries. One thing you do not do is you do not rush. Don't answer your phone. Don't let the wife or the girlfriend come in. It's always a recipe for disaster if you don't keep your eye on the ball. So again, we said we're going to make the negative is going to be on the inside. I've already slipped on my my insulation lead here. And we are going to just... So you can see the Dean actually has a side where it's recessed, and that's where I'll put the wire up in this recessed area. Can you see this? Is this a good spot for you? Is that better? Yeah, that should work. And I'm just heating it up and touching it. You'll see it'll just flow. All that solder that I put on that tip before will flow. And of course, it's going to take a second for the heat to cool and for it to kind of lock itself in place. It's a little bit of an art. You'll get to it. And I'm almost there. Okay. I'm not a perfect person, so I'm not afraid to. Maybe you'll feel a little bit more confident once you see how ham-fisted I am and I'm doing it. Okay. Like I said, the more silvery, the more solder you have on that tip right there, the easier this process goes. And there you go, I got it. And you'll know it looks good because when it gets there, it looks solid. Solder has flowed all the way around the braid of the wire and gone into your thing. And if you're lucky, you haven't taken too long, like I took too long, and you can see I've already shrunk this heat shrink a little baby bit. I'll wait for this to cool before slipping it up, because if I slip it up too soon, then it'll shrink even more, and I will not be able to get it on at all. At this point, I can still probably get it there. Alright, so I'm at the limit. I have a tool here somewhere on my desk, which is a mess. Where is it? Well, I could usually expand this a little bit and get it up there a little bit faster. There you go. And just use your nail or a pair of pliers, whatever you got, and there you go. I have successfully put one lead on. I'm just going to use the higher section of the iron. Never use the actual soldering tip, but use the body like this and melt that on there. Not melt, heat up and let it get a little shrink going on. Okay, now that that's been insulated and out of the way, I can safely now clip, as long as I don't ground it on something else lying around here. Scissors out of the way, everything out of the way. Now before I clip it, I'm going to take a look and I'm going to make sure that the length I've got here is going to be enough to reach and touch wherever I'm going to want it to be. So where my nail is pretty good. Okay. And you can see the difference in the length of black to red that I had to do to get these to be equal. I can move a little bit safely now because I know the ground is insulated and inside the Deans and out of the way. Give it a little twist of the strand. Get some solder here. Try and position this for you. I think that'll work. Okay, get the iron out. Just going to get this lead to be nice and hot. Put a little bit of there it took. That one went a lot better. Let's see if you can see it. Anyways, I don't think you're going to be able to see that. Okay, so I'm going to take another heat shrink, slip that on the cable. I've already silvered the end of my Deans here. Right? And now it's just a matter of getting it to be lined up and hitting it fast enough with enough heat that it makes a successful connection without melting my I take a alligator clip usually, and I grab a piece of old heat shrink that I have around. I'll take the clear one that I have here. Right, like this. I put it in the jaws. Working with these little wires, sometimes you can pierce them or crack them, or whatever it is that's you happen to be doing, and that way you can just slip on this insulation like that and kind of get it where you want it to be, and then use the alligator clips like so to secure the two together, and then it's a matter of just lining it up, getting it right where you want it. Okay, it's pretty close. And then taking the soldering iron and that went really smooth. Both sides. I'm looking at the inside of the solder job. I'm hoping the video is focusing for you. But you look at the inside and the outside and make sure you got like a nice liquidy connection. And because I was fast and quick, this one didn't shrink. Slip it up nice and easily. Use the edge to melt it. And always clean your solder off, your iron off before you put it back. At least that's what I do. Take a little bit of heat shrink. I usually have a pair of pliers around that I use. Here they are. So get a little more duty out of this, I think that's a bit much actually. Cut it down a little bit. So I usually slip them in and then I expand them, and release and then pivot and expand again. Come from the other side, expand, be careful not to rip it, and once it's got enough on it, I can usually slip it right over top. Now sometimes these split because their tension is just too high, but if you're careful and you solder from the bottom up, heat from the bottom up, they usually don't. It's a little bit of an art, I guess. And work your way from the bottom to the top. There you go. You're done. You got a Dean with a nicely done there. Okay, I've got a voltmeter here. Take a little reading. And I can just 11.5. Nice. If this had a more general standard charge port, balance port, I think it's called XH, then you could usually just slip this right in and it'll tell you how many cells you have and the charge of each cell. I think I got this on Wow Hobbies or something like that. It's a nice little $5 voltmeter. Keep it in your box. Always nice to have. There you go. I guess we can take a look at the final weight now. See where that came in. And this is 20.6. And this is 20.9. Alright, that's it. Be very careful. Disclaimers abound. Do not hold me responsible for blowing up packs or electrocuting yourselves. Have a nice day.